In this video, we will take a look at how we can automate OTP using Cypress. So make sure to stick till the end, as I will also show you how you can access this code, which we will cover in this video. So let's get started. Hey, what's up guys? So a while ago, I uploaded a video on automating OTP with 𝗩𝗶𝗱𝗲𝗀 using the 𝗩𝗨𝗀 API. And some of you guys requested me to create a similar video for Cypress. Now, if you haven't seen that video, make sure you check it out, as that way you will understand the references I will be mentioning in this video. So in the previous video, I used 𝗩𝗨𝗀 to receive OTP messages, but since then 𝗩𝗨𝗀 has made changes and they no longer support receiving OTP on their trial accounts. So I had to get creative for this video and had to figure out a way to make it work with Cypress. So instead of using a paid service, what we're going to be using is basically a temporary SMS receiving service. So this will basically give us access to a public number which we can use to receive OTP messages on. So let's go over the example flow that we're going to be working with. So we're going to start off with logging to GitHub and then triggering our OTP using the 2FA. And then from there, we're going to access our temporary service, basically the temporary SMS service messages, to receive our OTP. And then we have to figure out a way to basically get the OTP message from that particular website. And then after that, we're going to use that OTP to log in successfully to our GitHub website. So this is going to be our overall flow. Let's do a quick demo to understand how exactly this would look like. Alright, so I'm over here on GitHub dashboard. I've already logged in with my username and password. And you can see this is my homepage of GitHub. What I'm going to do is go to my settings. So over here, I'm going to click on this arrow button here and then go to my settings. Now within my settings, I'm going to go to password and authentication. And then you can see right here, we have access to enable 2FA. Right now it's not enabled. So in your case, you can probably use your own account, or maybe you can create some kind of test account which you can use to try out your 2FA. So in this case, I'm working with the test account, as you can see right over here. So here I'm going to click on enable 2FA. So we can enable it using your 2FA app, or we can use SMS service. So in this case, obviously we want to go with SMS. So I'm going to click on that. Alright, so right here, this is where it's going to do its authentication verification. So here we need to put in some kind of phone number which we can use to receive our OTP messages on. Now, if you were using, let's say, a 𝗩𝗨𝗀 API, they're going to give you your own number. So you can simply just put in that phone number here and you're going to receive SMS message. Or if you're using any other paid service, you can simply use that as well. In this case, we're going to work with that temporary service that I was telling you about, and we're going to use that public phone number over here. So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to go to this website. So the website that we are going to work with is basically called receive-sms.com. Now remember, there are two S in SMS, so receive-sms.com. So this is the one that we're going to work with. So what it does is it simply gives you access to multiple public phone numbers, which are basically right over here. So you have different countries, UK, US, Canada, India, and so on. So I'm going to pick the first one. Let's say I'm going to go with Canada right here. You can pick whichever one you want, doesn't really matter. So usually I try to avoid picking US because since it's a public site, picking up a US number is usually like the most busiest one. So try to pick with something that's not as busy. So in this case, I'll go with Canada. And there you go. That's the phone number that it gave us. So this is the public number. I can right now send a message to this number and it will actually show it up over here. And as you can see, it says the new messages will arrive every couple of seconds. And just be aware that anyone can see your messages for this particular number. Because it's a public number, all the messages will show up. So make sure if you're using it, it's only for test purposes, not something that you're going to actually use it for production. So I can click on update messages over here and it's going to show me new messages. So for example, 7 minutes ago, 13 minutes ago, we received all these messages. So I'm going to click on this number, copy it, and go back to my GitHub site and simply paste it here. I'm going to remove the one from the beginning and then select the country. In this case, it's Canada. And then I'm going to click on send authentication code. Then I'm going to go back to my website and just click on update messages. It might take a minute or so for that message to actually arrive. So just try it out a couple of times. So I didn't see anything. So I'm going to click on update message again. Okay, so I tried a couple of times. I'm not able to get any message so far. So what I'm going to do instead is, instead of going with this number, the Canadian number, I'm going to change it and just pick some other number from this list. So maybe I can go with this UK number. And this will happen, guys. Like, we are using a public number. So sometimes you will get the message. Sometimes GitHub will just disable that number and you no longer get the message. But that's not really the point over here. What I'm trying to show you is how you can automate your OTP, or basically two-factor authentication flow, using Cypress. So in this case, I will assume whenever you will be doing it for your particular company or organization, you will use some kind of paid service where you have access to that phone number. So in this case, let's say we will go with this particular number, which is for UK. I'm going to come back here and paste it again, remove the 44 from there and change the country to UK. And then I'm going to click on send authentication code again. And this time, this should probably work. And there you go, it just worked. So it says 7116465 is your GitHub authentication setup code. So that's perfect. So in your case, let's say if it doesn't work for UK or something, simply just switch it to some other country, maybe like Israel or India or so on. So I'm going to copy this and go back and paste it here. So it's giving me some recovery codes. I can download it. It doesn't really matter. It's a test account for me. But anyways, I'll download it. So still, just to be on a safe side, just save your recovery codes if in case you get logged out or you do not have access to that phone number anymore. At least you can just recover your account using this recovery code. So I said, yep, I have saved my recovery codes here. And there you go. I have successfully authenticated and now I have access to my 2FA right here. I'm going to click on done. Now if I log out and log back in, it should ask me for that 2FA. So let's try it out. I'm going to sign out. And I'm going to sign in back. All right, so I've added in my username and password. Now if I click on sign in, it should send that OTP message to that particular temporary number. So let's try it out. There you go. It says authentication code sent. And if I go back to my website, I'm going to click on update message. And there you go. I just got a message. It says 51139 is your GitHub authentication code. And you can also see it even send me that you have successfully configured GitHub 2FA because we did that a while ago when we were setting up our authentication. So I'm going to use this and then paste here. And there you go. We have successfully completed at least the manual flow, which we're going to be automating now using Cypress. So this is going to be our overall flow. We're going to go to our GitHub website. We're going to enter in our username and password. Once we have entered that, it will send an OTP message to the temporary number. And then we're going to somehow figure out a way to retrieve that OTP message and then put it back to our GitHub website. And we're going to verify that we will successfully be logged in by basically checking if our website is github.com. Because before that, it was github.com/login. So I think this is good enough. I know it was a lot just to kind of cover what we will be doing. Now we're going to go ahead and actually take a look at how we can do this with Cypress. So let me head over to VS Code now and we're going to start coding. All right, so I'm over here on VS Code. I have my temporary Cypress project already created. If you want to see how to do that, make sure you go ahead and check out my Cypress series to actually take a look at how you can set up your project and get up and running with Cypress. And also, if you want to learn more about how these different commands work, I have videos created on that as well. I will add a link for that in the description below. So I've created a describe and an it block. It simply says it will log into GitHub using two-factor auth. And then I'm visiting the github.com/login website. So some steps that we need to do over here is, first thing we have to do is log in using our username and password. Once we do that, we have to retrieve OTP from the temporary service. And then we have to pass that OTP to GitHub and then do our session. So this is our high-level overall flow that we're going to work with. Now to log in using username and password, that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to go back to my GitHub website. And here I'm going to log out. I will click on sign in again. Here I'm going to right click and do inspect. Okay, so for my login field, I can see I have my ID, which is called login field. So that's convenient. And let's just see what it is for our password. For password, the ID is password. Perfect. And then we also have to click on the sign in button. So I'm just going to get that too. And sign in button is simply an input type submit. It also has a data sign in label, sign in. So we have multiple ways of doing this basically. So that's fine. I'm going to go back to VS Code now. So here I'm just going to do site.get, and then I'm going to add in my login field. This was an ID, and I'm going to type in my username, which was test1-tj. You can put in your username here, obviously. I'm going to do the same thing for my password. So this was password as an ID, and then I'm going to add in my password here. So let me just copy that. So make sure you don't just hard code your password here. In my case, it's a test account, so I'm just hard coding it. It doesn't really matter. And also I will just change it after the video, so it's fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on my sign in button. So I will do that as well. So I'll do _get, and then I'm going to paste in my input ID here. And then I'm just going to do .click. Perfect. So this will go ahead and fill in my username and password and click on that submit button. So let's just try it out to make sure this works so far. So I'm going to open up my terminal, and here I'm going to type in npx cypress open. So over here, I'm going to click on E2E testing. I will select Chrome. All right, so the one I'm interested is the 2fe.sci.js. This is the one I just created. So I'm going to open this. Okay, it's visiting GitHub. It's adding in my username and password, and seems like I entered the wrong password. So let me go ahead and fix it. All right, so I fixed the password and I reran the test. And as you can see, now I'm on the two-factor authentication screen. So far so good. That means we have actually successfully entered our username and password. We should technically see an OTP message now. So let's verify. I'm going to go to my website. And I'm going to update our message here. We should see a new message. So you can ignore this one. Someone was trying with Amazon. But right over here, 40 seconds ago is the one that we tried. So this is 626,474. So what we need to do now is somehow figure out a way to retrieve this message. Now this is going to be a little bit tricky. So if you've seen my previous OTP video, you would remember that over there we use a Twilio API. So we made a network call, or basically an API call to our Twilio API. We were able to get the response, and using the response, we were able to basically get the token. So that OTP token, we just simply passed into whichever website. In that case, you were also using GitHub. So we just passed in that OTP over there and everything just worked. This, on the other end, is not going to be as simple because it's just a public website. You don't really have an API that you can work with. So when I was actually testing this out, I tried it two ways. The first one was the obvious method is, hey, I'm just going to open up this website, receivesms.com. And from there, I'm going to look for the latest row from there. Or maybe I'm going to look for the top 4 or 5 rows. I'm going to search for GitHub and basically get the token that I need. So this would have been really simple if I was using something like Selenium WebDriver, where I can just open a new tab, access the particular token by just clicking on update message, and then just copy it, paste, come back to my previous tab and just put it over there. But the problem with Cypress doesn't actually support multiple tabs. So that method didn't really work. So what I had to do was figure out a way to get this using a similar method, just like making a network request. So instead, what I did was I took a similar approach to the Twilio API, but over here, since we don't have an API, I simply made a GET request to this website, so receivesms.com. And if I just open up my inspect right here, you're going to see what I mean. I'll go to network. I'm just going to reload here. And then in the network request, I will do all. The very first one is my document right here. So over here is my request URL. So this is basically the link that we are on. So I just did a GET request to this. What it returned was a response, the entire HTML response, the whole thing. Now, if you're familiar with how the web page renders, you would know that we're going to find the same GitHub code over here as well, because at the end, it's the exact same HTML page. Whatever we see over here on the UI is going to show up over here as well. So I figured out a way on retrieving a GitHub code using this HTML page. So basically parsing through that HTML page, get the token that we need and simply put that in. Now I know it sounds a little bit complicated, but don't worry, I'm going to show you step by step how this will work. So I will just copy this entire HTML right over here. So this whole thing, I will simply just copy it. Now we have to somehow parse through this HTML code and get the token that we need. So if you're familiar with regex, that's kind of what I used over here. So we have a website called regex. I'm going to open that, regex tester. So this is the website. So this is the regex website. I'm going to enter my test string. So I will paste in the entire HTML body right over here, because when you make a GET request, you basically get this entire body. Now over here, we're going to find our GitHub. So actually, if I just search for GitHub here, I will simply do a find GitHub and then simply just search for it. And I might need to kind of scroll a little bit up so that it can actually find GitHub. Okay, so I just searched for GitHub, and as you can see, I have lots of GitHub codes over here. So this is basically the GitHub code we were looking for. So I have 626474 is your GitHub authentication code. And we have basically this kind of message since it's HTML. So we have span, class, the class name, some kind of extra text, our GitHub code, again, GitHub code over here. And then it's basically telling you this is your authentication code. Now what we need to do over here is we have to access this entire line. So basically this whole line, we need to somehow access this. So if I simply just type in GitHub here, you will see it says there are 5 matches. So right here, you can see, I'm just going to zoom in. It says 5 matches. That means in that entire document, I have 5 matches to GitHub. And that's probably because we have 5 different types of GitHub codes. That's why it's telling me over here. So this is basically all of the matches. You can see match 1 is right here, match 2 is right here, and so on. And on the right as well, you can just click on all of the matches and it will take you there. Now what I need to do is access this entire line. So to access the line in regex, what you can do is simply just do .star. So .star will give me access to that entire line. And I'm going to add in .star after that as well. So what I'm saying is I don't really care what's there before that, and I don't care what's there after that. Basically, if you can find a string that contains GitHub, give me access to that entire line. So not that complicated regex, we are simply adding .star and we can access the entire line. And as you can see here, now we have 3 matches because we have 3 different types of GitHub code. And that's showing up right over here. So this is the first way we're going to go ahead and access our GitHub code. Once we have that, we're going to use regex again to basically get access to this code. And that's not going to be as complicated either. We're going to be basically using similar kind of regex to get access to the code that we need. So I'm going to go back to my website and copy the URL. And now I'm going to head back to VS Code and implement this. So I'm back in VS Code. Now here, in order for us to make any kind of API call, Cypress already provides this by default using the request method. So I'm going to do site.request. And the site.request takes in a URL. So we're going to pass in the URL. So this is the entire URL of that website. Now remember, if you're using Twilio or some kind of other paid service, they will provide you an API. So you can just simply replace this URL with your API. So this site.request will give me access to the entire HTML body. So here I'm going to do .then. This will give me the HTML body. Now I need to do something with this HTML body, which is what we talked about. We have to pass through this body to get that line that we need. So the first thing we need is our OTP line. So the whole line that we were getting access to. So I'm going to do HTML. Within the HTML, I need the body. And to access the regex, we can use .match. This is the JavaScript way of getting the access to that regex. So within my parameters, I'm going to add in 2// and then here I'm going to add in my string. So it was .star GitHub .star again. There you go. So this is my entire regular expression that I'm putting over here. So we use 2/ when we are starting with regular expression, and within that we're going to add in our actual expression. So we're using .star. So give me access to anything before GitHub, give me access to anything after GitHub. So it's giving us basically the whole line. So what we will do now is print out this line to see whether this actually works for us or not. So I'm going to just do log OTP line. So I'm going to save this and then go back to Cypress. There you go. So it reran the whole test, and I'm going to go to inspect. And I'm going to go to console. Within console, you can see we have an array right here, which is on line 14. I'm going to open this up. And there you go. Did you see we got access to our GitHub authentication code? It's saying 657531 is your GitHub authentication code. And if I go back to the website, we can actually match it over there. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do update messages. So there you go. This is the one we got access to, 657531. But remember, we have another one right here. So this one was 50 seconds ago. This one was 34 seconds ago. So what happened was I clicked save twice. So we got two messages. So the first one is right here. The second one is here. So we need to add some kind of wait here to say, hey, I want to wait until I get that message. And after that, you can go ahead and retrieve that message. So I'm going to add in a wait there. But the good part is we are able to get access to our GitHub authentication code. So let me go back to VS Code and add in our pause. So right after I submit my username and password, I'm going to add in my pause here. So we can do that in Cypress by doing side.wait. And then here I'm going to add in, just to be on a safe side, because I've noticed sometimes OTPs are slow, I'm going to add in a 10,000 millisecond, basically 10 seconds. Just wait 10 seconds and then go ahead and retrieve the OTP. This time it should go ahead and give us the OTP that's on the top, basically the very first OTP which we triggered using this particular request. So let me open up the Cypress window again. And let me just do run all test. So this time you can see it's waiting for 10,000 milliseconds. So that's good. And there you go. The text this time we got was 627943. So let's just make sure this is the one that's on the top, because that's the one we need. So I'm going to go back. And right here, I'm going to click on update messages. And perfect. Did you just see that? This is the latest message that we got 20 seconds ago. So since we added our hard-coded pause, we are now able to get access to the latest authentication code. Now remember, you do not need to do this if you're using your own private API or private number, because that way you will only get message when you will trigger it. No other public messages will be coming up on that particular number. We are only doing this just to do this workaround since we are dealing with a public number over here. So now that we have access to OTP line, we also need to get access to our OTP code. So let's head over to our regex website and take a look at how we can access this code. All right, so just the way we got access to the entire GitHub line, we also need to get access to our code. So for that, you can see that there's a pattern to where the code actually exists. So over here, this code is between this bold text. So maybe we can create some kind of regex which will try to get the code between the bold text, because over here there's no other bold text other than just this. So I can say anything after the bold text, give me access to that particular code, and anything before the closing bold text, give me access to that code. So that will look something like this. I'm just going to show it to you. So we're going to do basically the entire code, the HTML code over here for the bold text. And then I need any number after that. So for that, I can do \d. So \d will give me access to a single digit right after the bold text. And then I'm going to add in plus to basically get all of the numbers that are there. And there you go. So now we have access to our bold text along with the number. So I'm going to copy this whole thing and we're going to use the same regex to be able to get access to our code. So what this will give me is access to the bold text. So I'm going to select here bold text. And then I'm going to do OTP line. So OTP line returns me an array. So I just need the first index. Then from there, I'm going to do .match. And basically add in 2/ and simply just paste this right here. And I will fix this. This should be a const. So we have access to our OTP line. We have access to our bold text. Now let's try to print this out to see what we get back. So I'm going to do console log here and just do bold text. And then open up my Cypress again. All right, so this time we are not getting that entire line back. What we are getting back is just the bold text, which is basically the anchor bracket B and then the number. So we have to again pass through this and just get the number that we need. So we're going to add in our final regex to retrieve the number that we want from here. And then finally, we can use that to put in for our GitHub authentication code. So let's do this quickly. So I'm back in VS Code, and here I'm going to remove this. I will add a return statement because this is the final step of this particular OTP retrieval. And here I'm going to do bold text. This is an array again, so I'm going to do add in my first index there, or basically X as the first index. Then I will do .match. This time I only need the number, so we already know to get the number I can just do \d and then do plus. This will give me access to the number only, just the way we did it over here. We couldn't have done it for over here because there we had multiple numbers. So that's why we had to first get the bold text number, and now we're going to get the actual number. So this will return an array as well. So I just need the first index. So I'm going to do this. And this will basically go ahead and finally return me the text that I actually need. And we can test it out quickly by just doing dot then here. And this will be my OTP. So by the way, when you do a return, it actually returns that particular text into your parameter for your next then block. So now if I do console log OTP and then save and go back to my Cypress window, and there you go, we finally got our OTP code back. So we had to basically go through a bunch of parsing through the HTML body to be able to get this text. But now we are able to successfully get this text. What we're going to do is simply take this code and put it in our authentication and then simply do our assertion. So the main part is actually done. So let me go back to VS Code. So I'm back here in VS Code, and let me just take a quick pause and talk about something. I know sometimes these things seems quite overwhelming and it probably feel like this is too advanced for you or you don't really understand something. And I just want you to know that this is totally normal. Even I get the same feeling whenever I pick up something new. Even for this video, I had to go through a bunch of trial and error to make this work. But just remember one thing, that I'm here to help you out. So if you feel like you're stuck somewhere or you don't really understand something, simply reach out in the comment section below and just let me know what you need help with. Alright, so let's get back to our video and wrap this up. So now that we have access to our OTP, we simply have to go ahead and pass that OTP to our GitHub. So I'm just going to paste this here. Now we need to get access to the input field where we're going to be passing in our OTP. So I'm going to paste that command here, and then here I will just do type, and here I can pass in my OTP. So that's the OTP that I just passed in. And finally, I'm going to add in my assertion. So here, this is the last step of this video. I'm going to add in the assertion. And then for our assertion, I'm going to simply verify that my URL no longer contains login. So it should simply be just github.com. So I'll just copy this thing. So here I can just do site.url. And then I'm going to do .should equals and add in my URL. That's it. So if my URL no longer contains login, that means I know my authentication worked. You can try for some other way as well. Maybe some kind of like account will show up or something like this. Doesn't really matter, as long as I'm able to put in the OTP and I'm able to get to the next screen, I know that my assertion actually worked. So let's save this and go back to our Cypress window to see if it works. Alright, so we are waiting for 10,000 milliseconds. It's gonna go ahead and then add in the OTP. So let's see whether this works. There you go, it's trying to verify and it successfully worked. Did you just see that? It went ahead and it's on the GitHub page now. I can see my account over here. I'm successfully logged into the GitHub dashboard. And right here is basically it's trying to do my assertion. And my assertion failed, which is probably because I have some typo. Okay, so I know the reason it assertion failed because I was trying to verify github.com. And I forgot to add in /, but in the actual URL, they have a /. That doesn't really matter. What the main focus was that we were actually able to go through the OTP flow. So I can quickly fix this, go back to VS Code and add in a /, and then try to run our test again. So here I'm going to add in a / and then go back to the Cypress window. Okay, so we're going to try again. We are waiting for 10,000 milliseconds. It's going to get the OTP after the 10,000 milliseconds and it will put it over here. There you go. So just put that and look at that. We were able to once again successfully verify our flow. And you can also see my test successfully passed right over here. I'm able to access to that GitHub homepage. All right, so I know that was a lot, but good job if you have successfully able to complete that flow with me. So let's just head back to VS Code and do a quick overview of the code that we actually wrote. And then we're going to wrap up the video. Alright, so I'm back here in VS Code. So let's do a quick overview. So what we first did is accessed our GitHub website. We added in our username and password, nothing different over there. Then we added in some kind of pause because we were making a network request. After we do our submit button here, it actually takes a while to get that OTP message. And they usually say it might take a minute or so, but here I've only added 10,000 milliseconds. Usually I'm able to get the message back after 10,000 milliseconds. Now remember, you can actually get rid of this wait message by implementing some kind of custom wait method. In this case, we are working with the public site, so that's why I've just added in this wait method over here for 10,000 milliseconds. Alright, so this is our main part. So this is where we're actually getting our OTP. So we are doing that using site.request, which is simply making a GET request to our website, and then we are passing through our HTML body. Now this part was really complicated. I mean, specifically if you're not familiar with how regex works, this might seem complicated. But if you look at it, it's just 3 lines. We're simply getting that entire OTP line. Then we are getting the bold text. Using the bold text, I'm getting the number that I need, which is the actual OTP code. In your case, if you're using a Twilio API, you don't need to do this. You can simply parse through the JSON and get the token from there. Just look at my previous video. I've done that over there. Just pass through the JSON and you will access to that OTP code. And then finally, I'm passing that OTP to GitHub and then I'm doing my assertion. Alright, so that's a wrap up for this video. I know that was a lot. Once again, if you feel like you didn't really understand something, let me know in the comment section below so that I can help you out. And as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, to get access to this code, click on the link in the description below. And if you get stuck somewhere where you don't really feel like how it works, simply just copy paste the code by accessing the link in the description below and then try running your test again. That's it for this video, guys. Do let me know in the comments below what other Cypress content you would like me to create. And if you would like to support my work, there are a few ways to do that. The easiest is by liking and sharing this video, as well as subscribing to this channel if you haven't already. You can also support me by joining my monthly membership by clicking on the join button below. That's it for now, guys. I will see you all in the next one.